My lighting sucks, my webcam sucks, we're making a video today. Hope you're all having a fantastic, beautiful, wonderful day. Jack here, hope you're having a great day as always, and I am bored as is swear word. I can't say a bad word within 8 seconds. I am bored as heck. I've been seeing a lot of these Twitter posts on Twitter of all places where people were talking about the player population for Need for Speed Unbound going down and down and down and down and down, and I think there's a very good reason for that. Need for Speed Unbound runs better than Need for Speed Heat, plays better than Need for Speed Heat, and all around for the most part is a better game than Need for Speed Heat. So why in the hell am I still playing Need for Speed Heat for my Need for Speed fix? So there are a lot of days where I work long hours at work and I come home and I only have about an hour or two to play video games, and I'll sit down and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna play Need for Speed game, relax for an hour or two. 9 times out of 10, I'm picking Need for Speed Heat over Need for Speed Unbound, even though Need for Speed Unbound, like I said, runs better, plays better, and is better, and for the most part, than Need for Speed Heat. Need for Speed Heat at least allows me to pick my car, any car that I want, post-game, like post-campaign, and just do any race that I want. You know, I can just build whatever car I want. Let's say I build out, I don't know, a Honda Civic. I build out an EK9, and I'm able to just build it to whatever spec I want, and then I go out and I'm able to choose any race that I want. It's very simple. That's something very simple across most Need for Speed games. Need for Speed Unbound is not like that. Need for Speed Unbound, if I want to build an EK9, I have to build an EK9, build it out to the spec that I want it to be, but then I have 2 or 3 races available to me, and I can't replay those races once I finish them. And I can't do any other. There are races that I just can't use that car. Like, there are some races that are just for S plus or S, and I can't bring my B class Honda Civic to those events. It's not like Need for Speed Heat, where most events have different levels where you can select between faster opponents or slower opponents. Need for Speed Unbound doesn't have that. By the way, if you like this video, be sure to rate, comment, favorite, and subscribe for more Need for Speed content with my awful webcam that wants to be extremely laggy today, and my lights that don't want to work properly. Yeah, we'll put it that way. Let's talk multiplayer for a second, because Need for Speed Unbound Online, Lakeshore Online is what they've really kind of been promoting. Lakeshore Online sucks. It sucks in its current state. Any class above B class, you're gonna get a lot of rubber banding and a lot of, and I'm not talking about like where you're like people are catching up slipstream. I'm literally talking like rubber banding where the cars are going back and forth, shadow ramming where you could hit someone or someone could hit you, but they don't hit you on their screen. And of course, all the fucking exploits. The B class Ferrari 488 pistas, you know, I've seen 2017 Acura NSXs in B class as well. Just all the exploits. Oh, and also the grind. You don't get a good sum of money for the amount of races that you have to do. The grind is horrendous in the online. So there's kind of like this feeling of what's the point, you know? Like, sure, I could do all these races, I can grind this out, but at the end of the day, what's the point, you know? There really isn't a whole lot to this past the multiplayer and the competitive multiplayer, and you know, there's no activities to do with friends around the world. You're only allowed 4 people per party, which makes it extremely tedious and difficult to party up with more than 4 people. There's no cops in free roam in the multiplayer. It's very, very bare bones. And I want to talk a little bit more, speaking of boring, and boring's the big word that we're using today, it's the big boy word. Speaking of boring, I want to talk about the map. The map is very uninteresting in my opinion. Lakeshore City, when I'm in the center of Lakeshore City surrounded by all the skyscrapers and I'm, you know, all these cool buildings and all the different layers to the roads, it's probably some of the best map design in a Need for Speed game in that city. The map is fantastic, and I also love how there's a highway system around the map, an actual proper highway network. Other than that, most of the map is very boring. There's large swaths of just empty fields and farms, and for a game that's supposed to be about illegal urban street racing, we're doing a lot of rural racing and just in very uninteresting parts of the map. I personally feel like the city itself is not big enough. The city needs to be a lot bigger. And at the same time, I really feel like the areas outside the city need to be a little more diverse. I mean, sure, we have a quarry, we have like an industrial area, but other than that, and a few racetracks, and the racetracks are welcome inclusions, but other than that, it's just very bland. The mountains they feel very shoehorned in. It's just not interesting. Driving out in that part of the map, and most of the map is just not interesting. And Heat had this problem too, where I felt like the city was too small, but I feel like even in Heat, there were some more interesting areas outside of the city. And also the fact that there really isn't enough, in my opinion, racing in the actual city itself. Or a lot of the races leave the city and go into these empty areas. It just kind of like leads me away from wanting to race in those parts of the map, and I end up, you know, just racing a very small section of the map because the city is the only real interesting part of the map. The rest of the map is very boring. We need to go back to the era of Need for Speed. I need to stop slamming my desk, but we need to go back to the era of Need for Speed where the city was the main focal point of the map, you know? Need for Speed 2015. Ventura Bay is literally the entire map, and the canyons did not feel shoehorned in. The canyons felt natural and they felt like a lively part of the map, you know? I'm seriously hoping that the next map for a Need for Speed game is mostly city, if not all of it city, with like canyons on the outskirts that feel natural and just different areas. And if they do more rural areas, at least make them more interesting. Those are just a few reasons why I think Need for Speed Unbound is boring and why I don't want to play it. I'm seriously hoping there's a new update coming soon. They teased an update in March. We don't know what it's going to bring. I'm hoping it's something big that brings us people back into the game and makes the game lively again, because I need a reason to play Need for Speed Unbound. The game is very refined in terms of Need for Speed games. It's very refined, but I personally feel I want a reason to play it. I enjoyed the campaign. The campaign was fantastic. Aside from the annoying ass characters and the awful writing, the game itself, the actual pacing and like, you know, the underground nature of it, I really enjoyed that. The pacing was fantastic and I really enjoyed the campaign. But other than that, I don't have a reason to play it, and I want a reason to play it. I want to play Need for Speed Unbound more. This isn't an issue of Need for Speed Payback just being complete dog shit. I literally want to play Need for Speed Unbound more, but there's nothing for me to do in Need for Speed Unbound. And that's it for me tonight. Thank you all for hanging out with me. I'll see y'all later. Have a good night, everyone.